Hello, my name is Curtis Vaughn and I'm a real estate investor, and I'm here to help the new person who's getting into the business learn about real estate investing and share what I've learned, because I'm fairly new myself. I've been, like I said in my last video, I've been working in real estate investing as far as wholesaling, and right now I'm learning to buy my own properties, take down my own properties as far as buying wholes now. And so just want to pass along the knowledge that I've picked up along the way and try to help a new person who's just getting into the business. And one of the critical skills that you really depend on as a real estate investor, and what is really the fundamental skill, is comping and being able to understand value. Because if you can't grasp whether you have a good deal or not, then you can't really stay or build a thriving business in this field. I can't stress to you enough. I've seen some disaster and horror stories from other investors losing houses, getting foreclosed on because they missed their numbers. I met one lady last December who lost $80,000 on a potential flip, and it might have ended up being even more than that. So learning to run numbers is so paramount and so critical to this business. Is unreal. It is unreal. So that's what I want to go over today. And in order to do that, I pulled up a property. This is a lead that came in through my lead system that I talked about in the last video. But this particular lead, they're asking $365 for this particular property. I'm not going to give up their particular information, their name or contact information or anything like that. But I was going to look at this deal and see if it actually is a deal at all. And I'm going to analyze it in real time, and I've not really crunched the numbers on it. And I will go over what my thought processes are as far as like whether I think this is actually somebody I want to call back or not. So let's take a look at it. All right, so we are in Greenville, South Carolina, and the address here, it's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,000 square feet. And let's take a look at the house here. It's a ranch style house with a basement garage underneath. It's in pretty good shape. Like I said, they're asking $365 for the property. So one thing I like to do is at least take a look at the Zillow. Dive into Zillow. Zillow is your best friend in the business. It is free. It has a wealth of knowledge. There are other tools that I use to analyze the properties, but my first go-to source of data and source of information is really usually Zillow. And you can find out a lot of stuff about what's going on in the community, prices, and comparable houses just by diving into Zillow. So that's always my first stop. So that's why I'm here now. And yeah, this house is actually in pretty decent shape. It was kind of in line with what the lead was telling me the house is. It's actually in decent shape here. Now, one red flag I'm seeing already is that these sellers asking $365,000. Now, we don't, as a real estate investor, you can't base your numbers off of Zillow, a Z estimate, like we see right here. The Z estimate for this house is $277, but it is a good indicator of whether you have a deal or not. Like with this seller being so far above where the Z estimate is and their asking price, it's a huge red flag. But I'm gonna reserve judgment and dive deeper into the numbers. So what I'm gonna do next is find some comparable properties. Comparable meaning similar in the number of bedroom, bathroom count, square footage. It needs to be a ranch style home, just like this one is, if at all possible. I would like to have it within a 1/4 mile, maybe 1/2 mile at most. I want to keep it in the same subdivision. There's a lot of different rules that I kind of go through as I'm working through this property here. But what I typically do is I'll duplicate the tab here. What I did was basically I say duplicate, close that out, and just zoom out of the property right here. And what I'm looking for at this point is I want to kind of find the natural boundaries of this particular neighborhood. I want to keep it close, but I want to give myself enough data that can pull some really solid comps from this area. So let's see here. To keep it close, I will probably, let's remove the boundary. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to draw a line roughly around this area right here. And just kind of grab, because there seems to be a lot of data. I don't want to get too far away from the original location of the property, but I do want to pull enough data that I'm getting good comps. So let's just try that out and see what's going on here. Hit apply. And I always like to sort the data from high to low. So I like to see what the highest price properties are going for in that neighborhood. Now, one problem I am seeing immediately, like Zillow's great, but it doesn't necessarily give you all the data. In most cases, it will give you the purchase price, it will give you the bed bath count, and usually the square footage. But for some reason, this neighborhood, I'm not getting square footages, which is no bueno. It's not good at all, because you gotta be able to compare a property that's plus or minus ideally 250 square feet. You don't want to be much more than that. You can be all the way up to 400 square feet plus or minus, but the further away you get in that range from your original subject property, the less accurate your data is going to be. You want to keep your property, the comparable properties, as similar as possible in size, and like I said, in the nature of the property, as you want to keep it as close as possible. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use a paid program called PropStream to pull some extra data that I'm not getting from Zillow, which is the free software. So I've already pulled this up, and here's, like I said, the same house in Greenville, South Carolina, 3-bed, 2-bath, 975 square feet, built in 1965, and the year build, you want to stay plus or minus 10 years if at all possible on the year build. That's pretty important as well. But sometimes you have to break those rules. You might not find a property that's built 1975 at the most, or 1955 at the earliest. You might not always find that type of property, but you kind of have to use what you have. But the more you break these rules, the less accurate you're going to be. So you got to keep that in mind. So here's what I found. Now, automatically, when you come into PropStream and you ask for comparable data, it'll set up some parameters that are actually pretty neat here. It went down to 780 square feet all the way up to 1170, and then it gave a half-mile radius. So that's all the properties that sold within the past year, roughly, of this date, and within a half-mile radius. So let's take a look here. We got one, let's see, Gatling Avenue. It sold for $528. Let's check it out here. When I'm looking at PropStream, I like to look, public record data is okay. Sometimes it's inaccurate. So what I would personally like to look at is probably the MLS data. I would lean more heavily on that type of data when I'm looking at these numbers. MLS meaning multiple listing services, meaning that this data is coming directly from what the agents are seeing in that particular market, which that data might not always make it to a site like Zillow. It may or may not. So whenever you're seeing MLS data, that data is, that's a little bit more accurate than what you might see when it comes to just public record sold data, like I'm seeing right here. So let's see here. I'll take a look at this Old Augusta Road property. And what I like to do is just pull it up and see what that looks like. I'll just Google it. All right, well, this is a ranch style house, which is nice. Always like to take a look around the property and see what's going on. You want to look for any obvious issues, and I would do that even for the initial property we're actually searching for. That's another thing I like to do. I didn't mention that earlier, but you always want to look around the neighborhood. If you can have access to a street view, you're looking for power lines, train stops. I had a property I thought was a killer deal, and it had a train. Literally a train track going right next to the back of the house. And so that absolutely destroyed the property value, and I just didn't see it. That's something I could have easily seen on like a satellite view of the property, and I just didn't catch it. So now I always like to look around the properties, even streets, like what street is it on? Like this particular street is kind of I wouldn't say a busier street, but anytime you see like double lines or it's not in like a neighborhood, inside of a neighborhood, like facing like another house in that neighborhood, that could ding your property values as well. So by as much as like maybe $10,000. It depends on the price point, but the higher the price point, the more it's going to ding your property in general. But for this one, I want to take a look at this. Looks like it might be too new of a build to be comparable to my property, but let's see here. Let's take a look at when this property was built. Oh no, I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. No, it was built in 1955. My property, the original property, was built in 1965. So this is a great comp. It's 1,000 square feet. That's fantastic. It's on the market for 26 days, and it sold at $485. So these are all great signs, and it sold recently. This was sold May 31st of 2024. So this is a fantastic property. Now, here's what I do next. I developed I wouldn't say software, but an Excel spreadsheet that is like killer for helping me analyze deals. Because one of the areas where I struggled the most when I first got started in this business was just, how do I recognize a good deal? And I've had several mentors kind of try to walk me through how to analyze a good deal, but it comes down to repetition and talking to other investors. I've had thousands of conversations with listing agents. I've had thousands of conversations with probably sellers and investors at this point. And so I have a good idea and understanding of what they're looking for, but it came with time. But one thing that helped me the most was developing this spreadsheet. And I call it, I know the name sounds corny. Shout out to Brittany, my disposition manager. She hates that name, but I love it, so who cares? Whatever. It's Computron. But in any case, Computron is the software I developed here. I wouldn't say software, but Excel spreadsheet I developed, and it really helps me analyze deals. And the way I have it set up is a little complicated. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm offering it for free. If you want to download it, leave a comment saying gimme, Gimme, in the chat, and I'll send this to you. And we'll figure it out, we'll get it to you. But in any case, I have it set up in numbers, but I can export it out to Excel. But all you have to do is very simple. You take your initial subject property here, plug it into this blocks right here, the address, fill out this data right here, bedroom, bathroom count, square footage, year built, and you don't necessarily have to use the basement square footage, but it's always nice to have more data than less. And then do the same thing for your comparable property. So I'll put that information right here, and just fill it all in, and then we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and take care of that. So this is 12 Arcadia Circle. I know this is compelling information, but I'll try to fill up some of the dead air by talking a little bit. But yeah, all you gotta do is fill out this information. 36 Old Augusta Road. And we'll just dive into how I've got this thing set up. Now my property that we're comparing is a 3-bed, 2-bath with 975 square feet. So type in 3-bed, 2-bathroom, 975 square feet. And the comparable property, 36 Old Augusta Road, is also a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square feet. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square feet. The year builds 1965 for my property and 1955 for Old Augusta. So 1965 and 1955. And here's where it gets really cool. So when I plug in the actual sale price for the comparable property right here, it's going to automatically help me determine the ARV, the after repair value of the property, of the subject property. After repair value means, okay, once you put your money into this, whatever the amount of money is as a flip, like what's it going to be worth? That's what we're really trying to figure out here. What's this property going to be worth after we invest X number of dollars into it? What can we sell it for? And then we can work backwards and try to figure out, okay, this is going to be a profitable deal. So let's find out what it sold for again. I think it sold for $485. Let's just double check. What was the sale price is $485,000. And I do want to put the sale date in because it is relevant. May 31st, 2024. So that's pretty recent. It's within the past, I don't know, 2.5, 3 months. May 31st, 2024. May 31st, 2024. All right, cool. So based on that information, it automatically calculated the price per square foot, which is $485. That's 485 times 975, and then it came up with $472,875. Now, a cool thing about Computron is I can make adjustments to the ARV, and this is what appraisers do. Appraisers, they'll make adjustments. So if there's any variation between the subject property, the property you're purchasing, or the comparable, they can make adjustments for any differences they see. And I already built that in to Computron. I already built it in. So for this one, let's pretend like this subject property or the comparable property, let's say it had 4 bedrooms, for example. So there's a difference here. So I can take that into account on Computron. Let's see, I can actually subtract that extra bedroom out. So that will remove an extra $10,000 from the ARV. So you see how it dropped from, I think it was $470 or something like that. It dropped by $10,000. Let's remove that because that's actually not true. But you can do the same. I can do the same thing for bathrooms, for the garage, swimming pools. Like I mentioned before, if this property is facing something undesirable, like a busy intersection or a busy street, that can drop property values. So like, that's called fronting. And if a property is worth less than $500,000, it's a 10% hit. I'm sorry, it's fronting is a $20,000 hit. If it's over $500,000, then it'll be a 10% hit, which is actually worse. Can be far worse. So I set this thing up so I don't have to think about the appraisal rules anymore. I actually wrote down the rules, some of the rules that are most important for appraising right here, which you can read later on. I'm not gonna bore you with all that. But in any case, we have an ARV, it's $472,875. Now here's the thing. Our property is going to take some measure of work to get into the same condition as that property we just saw. So based on what I was seeing, let's take a look at that property again. This property is actually in pretty decent shape. Let's take a look at the kitchen. You could definitely update the kitchen. Bathrooms need to be updated. This all needs to be painted and updated. So I'm gonna say this is probably an average rehab. I can dive into like further clarification on what's a good, what these are, but as far as rehab level, I've got it broken down. I borrowed this information from Jerry Norton. I kind of tweaked it a little bit myself, but basically he had it in different categories: homes under 1,500 square feet, homes between 1,500 and 2,500 square feet, and so on and so forth. And it's just broken down in each of those categories as whether it's gonna be a light rehab, an average rehab, or a heavy rehab. In this particular case, just from looking at it, it's gonna be a pretty average rehab. Because average rehab meaning we have to do the carpet, we have to do the paint, we have to do update the kitchen and the bathrooms. So that's exactly what we have to do. And with this being such a small property, you're looking at maybe like $30,000. It's only 975 square feet, so you're maybe looking at 30 grand. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. We're just ballparking it right now. And so with that information, I can scroll down to the bottom. And let's see, we just plug in the data that we have. So it's automatically feeding in the ARV right here, 472,875. And the repairs are being fed into the system right here at $29,250. And it's automatically calculating the holding costs on the back end once they sell the property. Once the actual person fixes it up, puts it back on the market, and sells it, we're assuming like 9% closing costs. That's including like agent fees and 3% for the closing costs itself. So if they're asking $365. And yeah, no, this is no bueno deal. I don't want this deal. I'll have to be far lower than 365. So here's what I'm saying. The ARV is 472, 875. I think that's fairly accurate. We can run more comps just to make sure, but I'm doing this quickly here. But based on that particular comp, what I'm seeing, we can probably get 472, 875. The closing cost being $42,559. Repairs being $29,000 and holding costs maybe another $28,000 or so. It could be less. You never know if they sell it quickly. But with the maximum 365, it makes the deal a negative deal. The potential profit is actually negative $3,000 if somebody actually bought this deal, or if I actually bought this deal myself and try to flip it, fix it up and flip it, or if I try to wholesale it to somebody else, it will be a negative deal. Ideally, here's a cool thing. Computron will actually tell you where you should be on this deal, what you should offer. So let's say I want to make a $20,000 wholesale assignment fee on this deal, for example. Then according to this, I need to be around $281,000. So let's plug that number in and see what happens. Yeah, sure enough, it becomes a much more desirable deal. So if I offered them, let's say I offered them $281,000, then yeah, I could the end buyer could walk away with $82,000 in the pocket. Or I could if I fix it up and flip it myself, I'll walk away with $82,000 in my pocket. If I wholesale a deal for $20,000, then the end buyer will get $61,000 and I'll make 20 grand and we call it a day. So, yep, but that in a nutshell is how you comp using Computron. And like I said, I'm willing to give this to you for free, just adding value to the community. We're trying to give back. And so if you want it, type it in chat, gimme, and I will send that to you right away. But yeah, I will do more videos on comping because there's a lot to talk about. This is just kind of a quick and fast way of looking at it. But there's literally an infinite number of scenarios you can come across. This is just looking at a fix and flip property. There is also buying wholes, multifamily properties, and all sorts of other things you can look at as far as analyzing deals. But I hope this helped out a little bit, and look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.